Oh yes. I'm not sure I want to give you this back, to be honest.
Hello and welcome back to SGGT. Today, massive launch for Titleist. We're going to get some hitting in a minute, but we've got a special guest with us. Jack, travelled up. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, really excited to be here today. It's great to be able to sit in front of you guys or with you guys and show you the new models that are coming out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to delving deep into what's actually coming.
Right Jack, before we get into all the tech here, let's have a hit. Let's get all the guys a shot. Let's see what they do off the grass and off the mat, and let's see how they perform for everybody. I think we start with the one with the biggest change to start with, T350. James, previously, T300 to T350. Before Aaron hits it, how does it look?
It's so clean. The back badge that we used to have on the T350 and the T200, they're not there anymore.
Okay.
It's a kind of single piece head now. It looks so clean. You could confuse this from a distance with like a T100. It's a really nice head. It'll be really interesting to see what this one does.
Right.
Exciting times now. We've been waiting for this for a while.
Definitely.
Right, Aaron, let's see it in action.
It's definitely a lot cleaner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Similar to look down on in terms of that kind of thicker top line, but it's designed with a bit of help in mind, isn't it?
It looks really inviting for something that's quite big. I had a hit of it earlier.
Yeah.
And I genuinely feel like I could play it. It looks really nice. It feels really nice off the face. It doesn't look like what you would traditionally describe as a big golf club.
Yeah.
Come on in. Let's get some numbers. Let's see what she looks like.
Let's have a hit. That sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better.
I think that's one of the big things, that because it's now, I suppose, an enclosed head, there's no back badge that's then kind of glued on over the top.
Yeah.
The sound is the thing that's really changed with these irons. Yep, nice shot.
And yeah, it definitely sounds different. And in here, it's a little bit more amplified anyway, but you can definitely tell the acoustics have changed. They've worked on it. They've worked on it really hard as well. That's nice.
Yeah.
You could play that.
I think that was my thoughts on it, that traditionally if you said that any brand that you're going to play the biggest club within the range,
Yeah.
you would turn your nose up it. But if that was the only option, I would quite happily go and play golf with that. I would pick it over lots of things that you probably are more suited. I genuinely really like how it looked and how it felt.
What was the spin on that last one?
5,000, just under.
Really?
Which for something that isn't designed necessarily to spin.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it launches high enough and the spin retention is there. When you look at kind of optimal ball flights and things, like it's doing what it would need to do.
That
What's it
looks...
doing there, James, what do we call that?
Well, it's riding the crystal optimal wave, boys.
Is it really? It looks a lot cleaner. It looks really nice. Not just cleaner, but it looks lovely.
Yeah.
That sitting in a bag, it's just a nice set of golf clubs, isn't it?
Give us one more and we'll swap you into T250, but what it really looks
I'm not
like
sure I
is
want to give you this back, to be honest.
350 and 250, look, they can blend together amazing.
Good shot again.
That sounded pure.
I think that's been the kind of big chat for like the last few years, is how can you get a set of golf clubs to work for what does the golfer need it to look like,
Yeah.
rather than the sort of traditional, you just buy 4 to pitch wedge because that's what you get. So with this new T-Series range, it was exactly the same with the last T-Series range. They blend very well. They lend themselves to blending. So like our matrix is unique that we use 468 wedge. We would do this sort of thing anyway, but it allows us to dig a little bit deeper, and if golfers need just a bit more help when it comes to those like longer irons, we can use it. But if we need something a little bit smaller when it comes to the short, same sort of thing, we can test all that, and it's all real that way.
I could play that 6 up.
See, when you talk about that 468 wedge, it almost ties in with Titleist's 3Ds that Jack was talking about, James. What are they again?
Yeah, distance, descent, and dispersion.
So I think the distance one that they speak about is it's not necessarily how far a given club can go, it's how can they keep that distance consistent throughout the set. Can they get the gaps what they need to be, and can they get peak heights and land angles as they should be, as opposed to having a club in the set that goes miles and then the rest of the set not running in a line properly. So we can really look at that when we're fitting and dialing it in with the 468 and wedge. Right, James, let's change this over.
Let's go T250. If I can have that back, please. Grudging.
So initially, Aaron, behind the ball.
Noticeably different. That's quite a bit smaller. Not that sounds like a bad thing, but it's still really clean. Thinner top line. You can see a little bit more loft on it as well, but still quite strong.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see how this flies. That was obviously the 350 was quite strong, but that still wanted to pop up in the air.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's give it a whack and see. That was really skinny.
I think just go back to your previous point, I think Titleist ethos is definitely about getting the ball up into the sky.
Yeah.
I think other brands are maybe known for making it go a little bit farther and it coming out a little bit hotter. But I think Titleist very, very much a big part of their story is about getting it to launch and spin properly.
The thing I've always liked with Titleist irons is that leading edge is just really clean. It sits really square. It's nice. Not a huge amount of offset on that either.
Sounded good?
That was nice.
I think that's one of the sort of keys with this one here as well, Scott, is the kind of chat with T200 for the last few generations is how can you make it sound better? So anytime you've got like a kind of hollow body iron, there's almost like that kind of clicky sound, that clicky feel off the iron, and it's how do you dampen that noise down and make it sound like what the good irons sound like, you know, single piece forward heads. So this guy, with not having a kind of back badge that then goes on the back, the story is really the same as the T350. This is now a kind of all encapsulated head. The audio is totally different. We listen to golf shots all day, every day, and there's a big old difference with this one here. Really like this.
How much does sound play a part of feel?
Massive.
Yeah, like that. What was the peak height and spin on that one?
Peak height 132 feet and spin just under 5,200. Land angle's nice and steep at the same time, so you can get that ball to really stick quickly on a green.
And this is a 6 iron for reference. That's incredible. Big fan of that. Wee bit blocky. Michael Block.
I think I'd take that, Scott.
I think Trackman lost your spin there, Aaron. It went 243 yards.
Hercules. Here we go. Right, one more.
You went to the gym with James.
He'd end up lifting me.
There you go, though. Look at that.
That was piped.
Yeah. That was really solid.
Could you play it?
Definitely. Yeah, that feels and sounds like a player's iron.
So I think it goes back to what I said before. In a longer iron, I think that 350, I could play 350 all the way, don't get me wrong. But I think in a longer iron, 350 would be amazing, and it almost feels like when you put them down in a bag or whatnot, they look like they blend so well. I think they've made a really good job of it and allowing irons to blend this year, but I think in previous years, 1 and 150 blended, if there was a need to do it, but the other ones didn't really match in, whereas now I feel like full range.
Slightly different aesthetic, wasn't it? That, I mean, that sitting in the bag next to a 350, you'd have to be able to read the number to tell the difference.
Yeah.
You really would.
Should we have a hit at 150?
Let's do it. Thank you.
Initially behind the ball.
That has a familiar look. Kind of T150 from last year, incredible iron. It's maybe a little bit cleaner. They've updated the aesthetic a little bit. But when something kind of works really well, not really a lot you want to do to it.
I think that's it. When you hear the technical from Jack, that's very much where it's at, and it's something that's worked so well. T100 is the most popular iron on tour.
Yeah.
It's, let's not reinvent the wheel, it's how do we take something that's good and make it better.
Yeah.
It's not rip the rule book up and start again, and I think that's the good bit we hear from Jack. It's what they have done, the difference in grooves and whatnot, and how they make this iron perform that little bit better.
Titleist has never really been big on their visual technology. It's all just kind of inner technology.
What's under the hood.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks really clean. mean, in all honesty, can I have that T250 back? Please. Sorry, James.
That's all right.
There's really not a lot in that.
It would blend really nicely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's really not a lot in that, other than arguably a little bit of loft.
I think that's testament to two things. One, that T150 progressively gets that little bit larger.
Yeah.
So when you look at T150 and a pitching wedge versus a T100, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It just progressively gets bigger. So T150 is almost a combo set within itself. And then T200 has got to a point it looks so sleek now that it looks like a proper player's iron. And yes, the font's changed before you mention it.
It's one of the first things I'd noticed.
Pretty sure James would have clocked that day one.
There's that solid sound again.
Yeah, that's nice.
You've retained ball speed throughout them as well, which is really good. There's not really been a drop off as such. Lovely.
Oh, I thought that was...
That should have been worse than that, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that's surprising.
I think with the tungsten in that head now, it is just so stable.
I got away with murder there. There's been a murder.
It's amazing, like when you see the exploded head with how much tungsten is actually in the heel and in the toe,
Yeah.
that you can sort of create that separation. It's amazing.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they're all really nice, and you can run out of superlatives pretty quickly, but that feels incredible.
You could
And it
almost run a super combo set here, couldn't you? You could literally have...
Yeah,
The 4-way.
you could. Bring the pervert out in me. Oh, yes.
There you go.
Strike was nice. Club face closed a little bit, but that was more me. That was all me, actually. The club had nothing to do with that, let's be honest.
Ball speed still there, peak height still there, land angle still there. We could play that no bother.
Lovely.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Right, James,
Let's go T100.
let's see it in action.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
This is the T series that everyone wants to play, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. It's the most played iron on tour. It looks amazing. Again, Jack's going to touch a little bit more on tech with you guys, but the loft's changed a little bit. So Jack will touch on this a little bit more. But LPGA, the girls love T100S. On the smaller profile, it was the same size as T100, just a couple of degrees stronger. Whereas T150 got progressively bigger and it wasn't quite as popular.
Yeah.
So what they've done with T100 now, the natural loft is a degree stronger on 6 iron at 29 degrees. So to hit that loft that the ladies want to hit, they're only having to alter it 1 degree to get to where it needs to be. And then for your gent on tour that's a little bit steeper and requires a little bit more launch and spin, they're able to bend it back a degree, which actually reduces the offset for the guy that wants to play it, so it works for more golfers now.
It's funny you say that. I found last year's T100 to be a little bit high and a little bit spinny.
Okay.
T150 was a much better window for that ball to come out of. Like you say, it just maybe a little bit big.
Yeah, good.
But this looks incredible.
They've nailed this iron the last 3 or 4 generations, haven't they? When it went from 718 AP2 into the first generation T100, that thinner top line, it's kind of been ever present since then.
Yeah.
Let's give it a whack.
Good strike.
Yeah, that's nice.
Sounds really solid again.
What was the carry on that one?
185.
Yeah.
Spins a little higher at 6,000.
Yeah.
Land angle's a wee bit steeper there at the same time. Loads of stopping power.
That felt really nice. Really solid. Nice sound. That came out a nice window as well.
Good.
It's lovely. Kind of missed that one a little bit. That'll be interesting.
See, from a feel standpoint, Aaron, is there much between T150 and T100?
No, there really isn't.
I think that's what's really interesting. So for your amateur golfer, even at an elite level, the drop off in ball speed, we'll look at some numbers in a wee minute, the drop off in ball speed when you don't catch T100 versus T150 is massive.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're playing T100 because it feels so much better and you're making a decision based on feel. Right now, if we're making a decision based on feel, you could play either or.
Definitely.
So if we're making them, so then the decision comes about performance, and the performance is so much better at T150 for you than you were getting out at T100.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even say that the 100 looks an awful lot nicer. You can tell it's thinner top line, a little bit of a sharper sole, but it's not.
You're not offended.
It's not demonstrably better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in previous generations or models or whatever we want to look at it, you can go back to when it was AP2 and AP3 or whatever. And AP3 didn't look like a player's golf club in any way, shape or form. AP2 and then you were the big jump into CB. I think they've got a line now that you're almost talking about a forgiveness story starting at T150. It's in quite earlier. You can get away with a lot with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Gonna hit one more. Just a little bit lower.
Still fast enough in terms of ball speed, but just like Scott said, there's a bit of a difference between when you get it and then when you don't get it.
Right, James, so looking through numbers, I think Aaron's really consistent. Club head speed's not really moved, 95.5 to 96 mile an hour throughout. Ball speeds as you'd expect, T350, the fastest, T250 and T150, very, very similar, and then a little bit of drop off into T100. I think when you look at consistencies, I think that's where the big one comes in, whether it be 150, 250 or 350, you're all the same ball speed, 133, give or take a couple of miles an hour. Whereas when you drop down to that T100, even taking the bad one out for you, Aaron, you're still give or take 3, so it's got that little bit wider. Yeah. Launch angle, 350 and 250, identical, just under 17. You go up a degree into the other two, the softer irons, so just under 18. Spin around 5,000, 350 and 250. So numbers wise, those two are very, very similar. I think because you hit the same bit of the face every time, you're getting the same numbers. I think the guy that benefits from 350 over 250 is the guy that maybe doesn't quite use the middle of the face the same as you do.
Yeah, that strike spreads out a little bit and you see the benefit.
Yeah. So numbers wise are very similar to you, and to be fair, 150 is exactly the same. Peak heights, 116, 118, 122, your peak heights, regardless of where you are through the set, are very, very similar. Carry numbers, 150, 250, 350, again, all about that 195 number. So there's nothing between 150, 250 and 350 for someone that actually hits the middle of the face as consistently as you. There's a little bit more deviance when you start to hit T100. That number from your 195 carry drops down to kind of 187. So there is a drop off into T100. But I would say for you, when we start to look at this, you could play either of the 3 at the bottom end of that, no problem. I think if you wanted to play 100, you could do it. But I think the extra forgiveness of 150 would come into its own. And then for the golfers that we're going to get coming through the studios, it's good to know that if you hit the middle of the face every time, there's so many options.
Yeah.
But as your kind of strike pattern gets a little bit wider, 250 and then into 350 really then does give you that bit extra.
I think from my point of view here at SGGT would be, what does the 100 do against the 150 and 8 iron? And then what does the 250 do against 150 and 4 iron?
Yeah, as that club gets longer, it's harder to hit the middle of the face. So certainly when it starts the fitting 4, 6, 8 wedge, it might be that you have to be a 250 player in a 6 iron, but by the time you get to 8 iron, you know what, you might love the look of 250 and it runs all the way, but there's maybe then that opportunity to try 150, and I guess same when you get to 4 iron. I think the properties in the head that help launch it that little bit higher, guys that maybe have struggled to play a 4 iron previously, we've now got something a little bit bigger profile, weight a little bit deeper in the head to really help launch it. So rather than playing a hybrid or whatnot, if you play a windy golf course, there's the opportunity that you could put a 4 iron in to match what will be a really nicely blended set.
Perfect.
So let's head back outside. We'll hear a little bit more from Jack on the tech and really hear what they're all about. Right, now that we've had a hit, wow, really good, love it. They look how you want them to look, they feel how you want them to feel. Aye, you've ticked all the boxes with that. Let's get some of the tech now. So new T-Series irons. that right?
Indeed, new T-Series irons.
So with
So all T100, T150, T250, T350 moving forward.
So even we go through them individually,
Yeah.
100, I'm going to be that guy. I've seen pictures and it looks the same. What's changed?
Great question. I think just before I get there, Scott, it'd be really good just to frame in terms of what we try to do with these irons.
Okay.
Because hopefully it will answer some of your question there. So ultimately for us, and our performance and design goal would be around our 3Ds. Our 3Ds being distance. It's not about how far one iron goes, it's about how far they all go. We want to make sure we flatline in ball speed, we want to make sure we flatline in distance to allow the golfer to play better golf, right? Our second D would be dispersion control. So what we've been able to do with the irons to give stability in the iron, stability in flight, to try and get that dispersion closer together. And then last one, we all need it to play better golf. I know up here, we're sitting out here, it's a little bit windy. However, we need descent angle. To be able to hit the ball high enough to get a steeper enough descent angle to allow us to stop it on the green is obviously really important. That's how we're going to play our better golf.
Definitely.
So what you're going to see in these new irons, we're going to see, it's quite simple, we're going to see a little bit higher in flight, peak height, and we're going to see a little bit steeper in that descent angle. Unless you go to work like you boys do so well and fit it correctly and get the golfer exactly what they need. So when we delve into T100, you've just said it there, you play T100, it's a great product, it's the #1 played iron out on the PGA Tour. So we really didn't need to, or we didn't want to rip up the rule book. We couldn't. Golfers love it for a reason, but we have to make it better. Titleist work on a 2-year life cycle, it needs to be better. So with T100, it's the player's forged iron, right? It's a forged construction, multi-material design, we have high density tungsten in there. So with the high density tungsten we've got in there now, we've pushed it to the extremes. So from a stability through turf, from a stability through impact, maximise that ball speed or miss hits, the tungsten on average is 90 grams.
Right, okay. What would it have been in previous models?
So it's increased ever so slightly.
Okay.
But this is progressive, right? That's why I said average. 4 iron's got a little bit more, we get down to the 7 iron, and then the 8-9 wedge doesn't have the tungsten in it.
Okay.
So it's about controlling that ball flight up and down for the longer irons.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Another part of what's really good, and we're going to see it, and especially here, when you get outside and put some golf balls in the rough, you're going to see spin control.
Okay.
So new T100s got 2 types of groove. Previously it was 1 groove, it was a V-shaped groove.
Okay.
Now our 3 to 6 iron has that V-shaped groove in it, slight tweak, but then when we get to 7 to gap wedge, we've now got a U-shaped groove.
Okay.
So if we think back to like Vokeys, for example, how do we disperse that debris the best? That U-shaped groove allows us to move the debris, move the moisture, and allow the ball to see more groove. So we can get that spin control in those short irons out of any condition.
So is that why on the telly you'd see lots of pros playing Vokey 46 as opposed to pitching wedge?
Potentially,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's a good, you point that out. The R&D team, obviously, the Vokey team, the iron team, everyone wants the pitching wedge in. The Vokey team wants a Vokey 44 or 46 in.
Yeah.
So there's that battle going on. But now with players that want to be able to change the way they play shots, a little bit more versatility, they may go Vokey. But someone that wants the consistency through the bag and to have that spin control in the short irons, they could stick with their pitching wedge.
And will loft remain the same from this year's T100?
Again, good question. No, slight tweak. So T100s have gone 1 degree stronger as a natural loft. Okay, so reason being, we had, it's a cool story really, our LPGA Tour players loved T100S from a few years back.
Okay.
So if you think T100S, T100 body, but 2 degrees stronger.
Yeah.
But same offset, same bounce as a T100. When we moved to T150 with the stronger loft, because of the head shape size change, they didn't like it as much.
Okay.
So with going stronger in this loft now, 1, it makes it easier to blend into T150. But 2, if we go 1 degree strong, we're not changing the effect of the golf club hugely for that LPGA Tour player or someone that's shallower. However, if they're really steep and you want to get back to 34, you can then add a bit of loft back in. So you can take it back to 34 for a 7 iron and then allow that sole bounce off, a little bit less offset, and give the player the ability to look down at it and be confident.
That's really good. And then T150 then? So
Yeah.
that was really good. That was, for me, or from our standpoint, T150 was better than T100S. So T100S felt like it was just a stronger version of T100.
Yep.
T150 felt like it was something very, very different.
Yeah.
Has that continued?
And that would T150, just so I know, would that be your better selling iron or your best selling iron in the Titleist range?
Somewhere with that and T200, I think.
T200.
T200
Okay, cool.
done really well.
Yeah. So T150, still the larger body, right? So it's that confidence inspired player's iron.
Yeah.
So it's still very much forged, but it's about confidence. You see it a minute ago and you'll see it through the testing when you get your pitching wedges. The two, they look identical. They're very, very similar. Although they've got 1 degree difference in loft now, they're going to sit behind the ball the
Relatively
same,
similar.
right? Similar. But then as you start to move up the set, and the progressive nature is so important to us, is that you're going to get the 7 iron be a little bit bigger, 6 iron a bit bigger, blade length get a little longer in the 4 iron, sole width get a little bit wider. We also then start to introduce that muscle channel into it. So 7 to pitching wedge has that muscle channel. 7 to 4 iron has the muscle channel, not pitching wedge. 7 to 4 iron has the muscle channel. So that then allows us to change that weight and again allow T150 to flight higher, even though it's slightly stronger in loft than the T100.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just going to jump back when you spoke about T100, as you mentioned earlier, there's a 3 and a 4 something change with them as well.
Yeah. So back to that point of elevated launch, achieving those 3Ds. Who says they hit a 3 iron or a 4 iron high?
It's not a thing, is it?
Typically not. And this is where previously we did see players go from T100 into T150 because of what I just said. That muscle channel allowed the ball to get a little bit higher, a little bit more elevation, a little bit more speed. However, the technology is so important that we put it into the new T100. So the 3 and 4 iron has that muscle channel, 1, to unsupport that face, tiny bit more speed,
Yep.
bit more ball speed, but 2, ultimately, to allow us to move the weight to get that golf ball going up.
It almost sounds like years ago we used to have to do loads of blended sets to achieve flights in different areas of the bag. It almost sounds like there's progression throughout the sets just now that's almost like a blended set within a set now.
Indeed. And I think it's going to be really interesting the more we go through this process. So like we haven't fit many of these yet. Tour players have seeded them, and we're starting to see that potentially they're not going 150, they might stay in their 4 iron in T100. However, 85% of our sets that we produce are blended.
Right, okay.
So it's going to be really interesting to see, to your point of, do we need to now or don't we?
Yeah, it almost sounds like that bottom end, the bit that guys struggle when they have to go bigger, we're almost doing that naturally now. It's not going to have the same progression it once did.
Yeah.
What about, so going on to that, the one that I think is the biggest looking change, T200 to T250, it almost looks soft now. I know that sounds really daft, but it looks like a big forged head that looks really nice. Is that the case?
Sorry, T150.
Sorry, T250.
Sorry, cut you there. So T200 into T250, brand new design. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen some images, you saw it a second ago, and instantly it's now a high strength steel body.
Okay.
So it's still very much hollow cavity design, it's still jam packed with technology, but now with the high strength steel, we've been able to remove that polymer backplate that we had, so hence the new name.
And the polymer backplate, why did it have the backplate on it in the first place?
So there was definitely a performance reason. So because of how we developed the club and our max impact support, which we'll get to in a minute, it was a way that we could get to the back of the golf club and insert the max impact.
Okay.
It was also a weight saving method. So because it was polymer, because it was lighter, it allowed us to then move that weight around.
Okay.
So moving to the high strength steel, basically the weight we've been able to keep the same as the polymer. So from a dispersion perspective, we can keep it performing as we want to, but then we can use it as a complete hollow body design to look like that traditional golf club.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
I think you mentioned on why have we changed as well. I think we had players that maybe not quite favoured the looks of that polymer back.
Yeah.
And when they got it out in performance, it worked, but then aesthetically, did it sit in the bag the way they wanted? They loved the performance.
I think that was a good thing with T200. It performed. It was one of our better selling irons. It done amazing. The 250, I think the best we can describe is it looks like a Titleist iron. It feels like it's part of a family now rather than, right, we need to change it to something different as we get bigger.
Great to hear. Yeah, great to hear. And this is where that blending set comes in, right? So you might go triple blending set now. You might go T100, T150, and then into T250 or T250U. because it will allow you to. It's all about ball flights, right?
Yeah,
And distances.
We had a bit of that, and even if it's like from a ball speed gapping standpoint, that guy had to go from T150 last year into T200, and aesthetically it didn't look like it was part of the same set.
Yeah.
I think other brands maybe blend it better, whereas this year it looks like you've nailed it, and it does look like part of the set.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
T350, what's changed?
So T250, T350, internally they're the same. Okay, so the construction, the same. There's a couple of changes. One, T350, ultimate distance and forgiveness iron. T250, the player's distance iron. Sit it down, looks like a player's golf club, designed hollow body, maximum distance. T350, the larger version. It's just blown up slightly. Okay,
Yeah.
Still looks like a Titleist iron, but slightly larger.
It does. It
Right.
looks amazing. I think that was the one thing that I put down there, and it could have, behind the ball, 350 could have passed as being a 250. It didn't look what I thought it was going to look like. It looks a lot neater than an AP1 would have looked once upon a time.
So when you put them down next to each other, like T200 versus T250, Scott, did you see much difference in head size?
No, relatively. I think 250 in relation to old 200 looked a little bit bigger, a little bit rounder on the toe, almost like previous generation of T200. It looked back to that kind of shape.
Nice.
A little bit kind of softer on the edges and things, but it looked lovely.
And you've swatted all of those. So on paper, finer degrees, 1 mil longer in the blade length. Again, if you can notice it, you've got a great eye. But it is a slightly larger version of T200 in terms of head shape size. But both heads, like I say, back to distance, right? They're both distance irons, but still got that forged face for that forged feel. So even though it's a forged face, there's two types of taper, right? So T250 has a V-shaped taper.
Okay.
To elevate that speed, and then because of the larger body and the larger face on T350 has a multi-zone taper face.
Okay.
So again, it's all about, not about how good that good one is, it's again coming back to how good that bad one is. How, can we get it the same distance, go back to that D, the same distance as the good ones, right? Which is really important.
So they look amazing, the story's amazing. Is there, do we call them driving irons, utility irons? Are they being replaced as well?
So yes, getting to T250U and U505. Just before we get there, actually, we'll talk in terms of a little bit more tech. So T250, 350, you've got the flight stability story. A bit like we spoke about T150, T100 with a tungsten weight. We're now up to 105 grams of high density tungsten in that hollow body design.
Okay.
So that is pushed to the outskirts. You saw the tungsten weight actually goes into the hosel of T250, 350. So again, maximising that ball speed on miss hits. But we've also got something called max impact. So that max impact is the support to the face. Okay. It's like on centre, a double trampoline effect. Okay. And off centre, it allows, because you've got support in the middle, it allows those off centre hits to again get a little bit more flex from the variable thickness face to allow that ball speed to get.
If this camera was big enough, I'd have you up and jumping about and show me how you.
I know, I showed you a minute ago about a trampoline. Everyone jumps on the trampoline, right? And you jump in the middle, we go with maximum velocity. I see that like a club face. That is the hollow body design club face. So unless we've got support in the middle of that trampoline to act as a second trampoline, then you're going to lose speed on the outskirts of the face.
So for me, with my lack of intelligence, are we slowing it down in the middle and speeding it up on the outside? Is that what that looks like?
So you could potentially say that. We've obviously got to be careful, these faces are really thin. If we make it completely hollow in the middle without having the strength there or the support there, we could see failures. Yeah. So that max impact acts as that max impact, which is a polymer, which you'll see in the blow up heads that we showed you. It's that red part in the middle of that golf club. That acts as like the double trampoline effect. So yes, as a support, but you could say it's maximising on centre without seeing failures, but then maximising off centre because it's a support factor.
Right, okay. It's good, isn't it? So even from a longevity standpoint, you're actually building the golf clubs to last for putting this in there.
Indeed,
That's
indeed.
Good. It's really good.
And then come back to consistency. Talking about groove technology, we spoke about it in T100, 150. We have the same in T250, 350. So T250 has 3 types of groove. Okay. Sorry, T250 has 3 types of groove. It has like a half moon shaped groove in the longer irons because that face has got so thin. Again, we spoke about failures. We don't want it to fail. So it's more of a half moon. When you get to the 7 iron down to like 8 iron, we're now into the V-shaped groove. and then you're into the U-shaped groove in the short irons.
So keeping that spin up on the shorter ones.
It's a scoring club, right? Then we get to T350 and it's got 2 types of groove. So again, back to that half moon and back to that V shape, allowing the player to, again, maximise for each golf club their performance, individually tailored, because it's 7 golf clubs potentially. 7 golf clubs need to be maximised for best performance for that golfer. It's not like a driver, it's not just one.
Yeah.
We need to make sure all 7 are doing what they should do.
So then, if we go from doing things that it should do, even if you run that into like utility irons, how does that then work from a blending standpoint? I think previously, again, we spoke about it was T100 or 150 went into a T200. It now looks more like it should blend and it should be part of the set, right?
Indeed. Back to that hollow body design, that high strength steel body, they look the same now. But ultimately with that high density tungsten, more of it down low is allowing progressive centre of gravity through the set. So you get your 4 irons. If you're playing a T155 iron and then your ball speed doesn't jump in the 4 iron, then you can potentially go up chassis size, go up to T250U and get that ball speed separation, but also get that height to get that land angle, descent angle.
I think we had a lot of guys last year that probably should have played 505 and ended up playing T200 on the basis it looked how they wanted it to look, whereas I think looking at 505 there, it looks so much better, especially in 4, it progressively changes in size, doesn't it? Yeah,
great spot. T250, head shape size, similar through to the 234 iron, but when you go to U505 now, to your point, it's great that, again, that progressive nature's there. So the U505 4 iron sits slightly smaller than T350 4 iron, where previously it would have been the same size as the 4-3-2-1 would have been the same size. So now, being smaller, shallow, narrower sole, again allows that blend, but allows the player to achieve maximum performance.
Yeah, I think it's that as it. It's the guy that's the better player that we tried to put in it previously that it didn't really work. I think whereas you can now play it that you could actually go progressively and you can maybe play 5 iron 250 and then go up again into a 4 iron and a 350 or a 505, 100%. It now looks like it runs in a line properly.
100%. So you want to play 4 iron, it's going to look more like your 4 iron, slightly larger, but then you want to play a 1 iron, this now turns into a driving iron. Bigger head shape, bigger size, bigger chassis, because if you've got a 1 iron sitting there, it's got 16 degrees of loft. Okay?
It needs a bit of help.
It needs a bit of help to get that way and go that way. So yeah, it's we're excited that that progressive nature will allow, if you do go down that route of mixing the sets, allow maximum performance out of it.
Another thing I think we struggled previously was when we're blending them, the lofts didn't quite match in how the way we once did. Is that something you've addressed this time round? Yeah, so you look at T100 into T150, we spoke about that 1 degree separation. You then go T250, T250 7 iron would be 30.5. You go down to the T350 is now 29 degrees. Okay, so same as previous. When we get to the 4 irons, the T250 and the T250U has the same loft. Perfect.
The U505 and the T250U and the T250 are the same loft.
Yeah, so it means that bottom end, that progression, rather than having to manipulate or blend or bend or whatever we had to do in the last time, you can just leave it as it is and do as it was designed to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's been really important to be able to do that. And then talking about a brand new model, right? We're talking about T250 launch spec.
This is the most exciting thing I've heard for a while. I've been preaching at this for a long time.
I saw when we started talking about it next door that your eyes just lit up, because I think goes back to our 3D methodology. It goes back to every type of golfer. You go back to Titleist, having that little stigma around it's only for the better player. Hopefully now with this model and all of our models, it's not. It's for the dedicated golfer. Someone that's willing to play better golf, puts time and effort in to play better, wants to play the brand. They can. All I'd say is go out and try it. But this new T250 launch spec, in a nutshell, is T250, but made 4.5 degrees weaker.
Yeah, so we're actually going to get flight now. For your golfer that lacks a little bit of speed, they don't then have to go into 350 to get the ball in the sky. And even then, 350 at a stronger loft was always difficult to launch at a slower speed anyway, so we've now got something that looks like a golf club, or a player's golf club, that's unfair, something that looks like a golf club, but has the loft on it that's going to allow you to flight it as well.
Yeah, you look at T350, it was great, right? And it's designed to go up, and it's designed to go the highest out of any of them with how much weight we put in there, tungsten weight. But we have to make the loft stronger to achieve that ball flight, so it doesn't overachieve or overfly. So sometimes, to your point, that if you haven't quite got the speed, then you're dropping your spin because it is such strong lofted.
Yeah.
So this new T250 launch spec, being a player's distance iron, but having 35°7 iron, is going straight up in the air. The testing I've done with it already, it has the ball speed of T100 or 150, but flights it about 15 to 20 foot higher.
Wow, that's good, isn't it?
So, impressive.
Yeah, that helps. See, so just from looking back at the range then, what's the availability? So T100, 3 iron down to pitching wedge plus gap wedge?
Yep.
150?
3 iron to gap wedge, 3 iron to pitching wedge plus gap wedge.
250?
So, inline 250, 2 through to W48, gap wedge. In the utility iron, T250U, only 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
The only difference in the two is whether one has graphite or one has steel.
So they're exactly the same golf club, just one you're going to put steel in, one you're going to put graphite in.
Yeah. T350, 4 to gap wedge 1, gap wedge 2.
4853?
Yep.
Okay.
And then T250 launch spec, you've got 5 iron to gap wedge 52.
So very traditional, lofted, old school.
Yeah.
Good. Ah, lovely.
Yeah.
Love it. So exciting new lineup.
Can't wait. We're really excited to get them into all golfers' hands. Firstly, get them into your hands so you can test them, and then be able to get them into our golfers' hands. So
Amazing.
it's exciting.
Well, thank you very much for coming up. Brilliant to have you in.
Thanks, Scott.
And thank you to everyone for watching. For more great content, please like and subscribe to the channel. To book your own fitting, just when we're here, Jack, when we're going to have them in?
So, first fitting date is the 10th of July.
10th of July.
So you're going to get your kit ready to be able to fit on the 10th of July.
So from the 10th of July, head onto the website at sggt.co.uk and get yourself booked in, and it'll be great to run through the lineup with you. Thanks.